Sorry, got all into what I was saying and I forgot. These videos only have a 9-minute and 59-second time limit. So, let me press ahead. As I was saying before, okay, you have people like H. Ross Perot, who served as that last milepost, that last marker that said, hey, you keep going in this direction, and you're going to face a disastrous result. You had people even during the first 10 years of the 21st century warning about the housing bubble. And they were trying to tell people that this whole thing could not be sustained, that there wasn't enough of an underlying economic engine. And what I mean by economic engine, I'm talking about the traditional industrial base or production-based economy, which Perot, if you go and you look back at his debate with Al Gore, referred to, that people who don't make anything can't buy anything unless you give them credit. That's the only part he left out. People who don't make anything can't buy anything unless you give them credit, so that they can buy more than they would ordinarily be able to, and borrow against income that you more than likely are going to make sure they're unable to earn, because when time comes, you're going to go and try to tap into that income for greater profits. The fact that they got themselves into debt now really doesn't matter now, does it? Hey, you know, it's the way it works. You take your chances with life, and you rolled the dice and it went against you. You were counting on that income for 5 years. You had no idea you were going to get laid off, or you're going to get cut in hours, all of that. But the people who put the system in place knew that that was more than likely going to happen. There's no way in the world, like I said, you can do this. So you had Ross Perot, who warned in the 1990s with Al Gore, who's supposed to be a liberal. Remember, they're the ones who care about the common man and the poor man and a hard-working, average blue-collar man. And Perot, the billionaire, who's supposed to fit the what? The wealthy, rich, stingy, you know, it's all about take from you. He sat there and warned. He passed NAFTA, and later on he warned about GATT, most favored trade status for China, all of this stuff, World Trade Organization. He warned against all of that stuff. What happened? Because the man got intimidated by the threats that were made against him, and I'm telling you right now, that's the only thing that it could have ever been that caused him to get out of a three-way horse race, was he was intimidated. Because whenever you play by the rules of the system and you're becoming too effective at stopping those behind the scenes from using this system unfairly to gain advantage, they will resort to third world banana republic tactics. Do not allow your Americanism and your American pride to think that we are beyond this, unless you're prepared to explain to me how JFK got shot and how come that whole situation went down by a random drifter. University of Texas rifle blows him away, and then what happens to him? On the way to be arraigned or on trial or whatever, he gets shot by a random guy. Nobody's ever been able to solve that one. Well, the fact that Martin Luther King was assassinated, and I'm still trying to figure out how the person knew where King was going to be that morning to be there ready to assassinate him, because I'm quite sure they didn't give out his itinerary to everybody. Or why the Nation of Islam assassinated Malcolm X, outside of the fact that we do know he was pretty much through with Elijah Muhammad and his hypocrisy. But that man represented something that was far more dangerous, and considering how much the FBI were following both King and X, I mean, really following him, and the fact that we know that JFK was the only president, and of course nobody wants to make a big deal about this, but that was thinking about rescinding, well, not thinking, he was actually planning on rescinding the law legalizing the Federal Reserve, basically ending the Federal Reserve. Of course, nobody likes to bring that up, because if you do, then that starts bringing up other things about, is our democracy really a democracy, or is it a democracy that actually is an oligarchy controlled democracy, meaning we'll let you have democracy so long as the oligarchy of the corporate interests are allowed to rule the day, not the people. But we have to keep the people under control. So we have to give them hope that they're somehow running things, when really they're not. And if anybody seeks to rise outside of that little matrix, we must crush them. But we must do it in a way that allows us to keep the appearance that we are a civilized nation. We don't assassinate people here. We don't threaten people here. We let public opinion take care of them. We let the media take care of them. But if that doesn't work, then we'll resort to the dirty tricks. Look, point is, we have all sorts of warning signs all along the way, and we missed it. And now here we are. We've already had people in Europe at the beginning of the crisis calling for anyone to take control of the mess, especially in the early collapse that happened in 2008. Not realizing that by calling for that one person, you're setting us up for the day when that one person, as people like to say, the head of the NWO, that one person, one ruled government, that world government that will take control of this mess. And let me tell you right now, we're so far up the creek right now, that's about the only option we have left. But short of that, how can we revisit where we've been and how we got here? And what can we do? That's even more important. If we're heading on a course that cannot really be reversed, ultimately, what can we do as individuals to prepare ourselves for what's coming up ahead, just in case you can't reverse it? I aim to bring a lot of this to light in the form of a movie. I will put a link here at the end of this video so that people will be able to go and check it out. It's going to be a movie series, and the reason being is because this is too intensive a subject from my research that I've done, and believe me, I have done 8 years worth of it. Alright, and I cherish every bit of it because it was worth it. Alright, 8 years worth of research into our history. You ever wonder why history is such a politicized subject in this country? I mean, why should it be politicized? History is history. Either it happened or it didn't. And when it happened, what was the result of it? I found out why history is so politicized. Because if I were able to tell you that I could definitively prove that this whole ugly thing was set in motion at the founding of the nation, the warning signs were there. But because we don't teach our history correctly, we only teach it for political and patriotic consumption, not honoring the fullness of the complexities of that time frame, things were able to plant themselves in this nation that was able to move forward each century to gradually gain power and control over the masses, even as they fought to maintain their hold on their God-given rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So they were taught. And politics continually kept people at each other's throats, this group versus that group, and you keep the pot mixed up all the while people are doing things. People of great education, great minds, are using that knowledge and that education and economics and finances and everything else in politics to take control of the whole without the whole realizing it. I will put a link here to my movie series, and it's called The Last Saints, and it will basically delve into this as a docudrama, as well as providing solutions and suggestions of how people can deal with what's coming. What would happen, especially if a person of means was willing to sacrifice those means to reinvigorate this nation? And what would the government do, especially if they were kept out of it? Not politicians, somebody who's one of us. I would definitely be able to say that it probably would be mind-boggling, earth-shattering to see someone do this. But you know what? I think this needs to be done, because this is about the only thing I could possibly see somebody like a Ross Perot or even a Ron Paul being able to do. And it would be considerably risky to do this, to run counterculture against the way the economy of this country works and the policies of this country works, and just simply go straight to the people and say, hey, look, we're going to work together. We are going to circumvent the system. It means working against the system and not relying on the system as we have been, because that is the only way you're going to have any chance of regaining any semblance of hope in your lives. And I can say, as my opinion, as a Christian, one of the number one things that the church has done a disservice to this country in is that they did not teach from the scriptures the relevant points that could have helped people see that this is the outcome of nations, not just ours, all over the world. No, we sit there and we say we had a Christian founding, despite all the hypocrisy that was there. We had a Christian founding, and so therefore people get this false view of Christianity, and it's like, well, what do I want to do with that? Founding fathers' belief system? If you really knew what those men were doing, if you really looked at the history and you saw the hypocrisy that was going on back then, you would take a step back and say, whoa, people who can cite all the right things, but too often in their life I'm seeing signs that, yep. So, all I can say is, we've had the people, we had the pioneers who came out to warn us. And I'll do my little part, whatever difference it makes. And I am willing to take on the slings and arrows for the rest of America. I don't care what your politics are. Right now, I am out of the matrix, and I am not going back in. And anyone who's willing to follow along through this movie series, all the details of how we got here, blow by blow, from the foundation of the nation, up through the 19th century, through the Civil War, up to now, once it's all laid out for you, you'll see that you've been in a matrix too. There's no other way around it. And there'll be some who will disagree. There'll be some who will say there's still a hope, there's still a chance to make these people do right. No, you're not going to make them do anything. They're going to keep doing what they're doing because it's about money. And they're enslaved to money. We are going to have to do something. And I, for one, am going to do something empowered by my God and my Lord, Jesus Christ. And if that means I make enemies in high places, then so be it. But someone who calls himself a Christian cannot go with the established code. You can't do it. You can't look at the faces, liberal, Republican, suffering out there, and just sit there and keep parroting the same tired stuff that you know deep down inside is not true, and that's why these people are suffering today. I'm not playing ball anymore. And I hope you guys will be willing to come along with me. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless.